This is the day the Lord has made. We'll be glad and rejoice in it. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Welcome again to Ebony Elevate on this beautiful Sunday morning. Thank you again for your like, your shares, and your comments. I want to talk about today. Be still and know that I am God. I'll say it one more time. Be still and know that I am God. You may want to say, what be still mean? Be still mean listening. Just be still and just listen. Of course, you got to ask questions. Ask God, what I need to be doing at this time. What instructions, directions, and guidance that I need to become all that you call me to be and do. Just be still. God would answer. So be still and know that I am God. I want to talk about Job. Job was an upright man. He was a fearing God. He eschewed evil, and he was blessed. He was totally blessed. He was blessed with cattle, children, um, housing. He was blessed. He was well known around the land. And so Mr. Adversary decided he want to have a conversation with God. I'm gonna make it real quick, but enemy want to have a conversation with God, assassin God. Well, you know what? Does Satan goes on Job chapter 1 verse 9. He says, it said, does Job fear God for not? He said, do Doth, do Job fear God for not? And then in verse 10, God says, has thou not made a hedge upon him? Enemy, sorry, my apologies. The enemy said, have thou not made a hedge about him and his house and everything that's in it? Thou hast blessed his work of his hands, and his substance did increase in the land. And then the enemy goes, but put forth thy hand now, and touch all that he has, and he'll curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he has in thy power, and upon all himself put forth thy hand. So Satan went forth and from the presence of the Lord. And there was a day when Job's sons and daughters, they was sitting there with eating and drinking wine at their oldest brother's house. And then all of a sudden, y'all, Job lost his children. He lost his cattle. He lost everything. His home. He lost everything. And you know what? You know how when we go through different things, and I mean, just like a rug just slipped underneath your legs, and you just like, wow, what happened? And I'm quite sure Job was like that. What happened? But you know what? Job didn't curse God. Job rent his mantle. That was on verse 20. And he shaved his head, and he fell down to the ground, and he worshiped God. Joe's friends came all by and checked him like, you must have done something. You done sinned and did something wrong because now all this is gone. And so Joe was also, he has the sickness, like boils all on him, so he was sickened too. So he had boils all on him. He could barely move around. Everything was so painful for him. But he worshiped God. Be still and know that I am God. Because it's nothing that God cannot do. It's nothing that God don't know. God knows it all. And he did not curse God. Even his wife has said, why don't you just curse God and die? But Job didn't do that. Job loved God. Job feared God. And I want to go down to Job 38. God started talking because Job had felt so bad about what was going on. He started to curse his own day of life. Job said after Job opened his mouth, he cursed his day. And he also said, let this day perish that I was born. And the night which it was said, there was a man child conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it up from above, neither let that shine upon it. And then God came and answered him in Job 38 because he had already talked to all his friends. And God said, and the Lord set out of a whirlwind and said, who is this darkness counsel by words with knowledge? Was Where was thou when I made the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Mm-mm-mm. But God just began to tell him the things he did not know of. How the stars they sing together, the sons of God they shout, and how the seas, how to shut up the seas with doors. How to shut up the seas with doors. And when he said when it break forth and it had its issue out of its womb, when I made the cloud of garment thereof, and the thick darknessness, But he just began to have a conversation with Job and say, hey, you don't know of these things. I was there. I created this and I created you. Just be still and know that I am God. Whatever you going through, God already know about it. It's nothing you can go to that God don't know. And I just want to say this morning, go to God. God will give you directions and guidance for everything you're going to. And don't forget to be grateful and worship in that moment in time, because that's where your breakthroughs come through. God bless you. Have a marvelous day.